Okay, we are live on YouTube. Welcome everyone to the second edition of the workshop series by Google Developer Students Club, University of Ibadan. My name is Victoria Ayodeji. I am the lead of the GDSC-UI. Before we get started, let me introduce our facilitator to you. His name is Odeajo Israel, and we also have Lateefah on the call. She is one of the core team member. Yeah, so let's have hold on. We'll have we'll wait for people to join before we read our facilitator citation. Yes. Okay. Let me play some background songs. Yeah. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Victoria GDSC-UI. We'll be starting the workshop session right now. But first, we'll have Lateefah read the citation of our facilitator. Lateefah is one of the core team member of Google Developer Student of UI. Yes. So Lateefah, have you. If you are just joining, let's get to know you, your name and your location, where you are joining us from in the comment section. If you are on the StreamYard, you can also introduce yourself in the comment section using the post comments, right? So let's do that. So Lateefah, are you ready? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. So, hello everyone and good afternoon. So I'll be reading the citation of our facilitator. Odeajo Israel is a certified Google Web mobile developer, Google IT support specialist, a data scientist, an excellent project lead, community builder, and mentor to many across the Africa and in the world. He has served and still serving as a facilitator and mentor across different tech communities in Nigeria. And presently, he's an ambassador to many tech communities in Nigeria, Africa, and the world. He's a facilitator at AI Saturday Ibadan and Data Learning Center, Oyo State, co-organizer Tensorflow Ibadan. He's also the lead facilitator for Ob67 Academy, and he's also a mentor with ALC with Microsoft Africa Skill Lab.
Okay. It seems like our network is having issues. So if you're just joining us, please introduce yourself in the comment section. I can see some comments already. Prince Eniola from Tech, welcome. Peter Akinde joining from Akure, welcome. Michael from Lagos, welcome. Thank you. So if you have not introduced yourself, please kindly do that. Okay, also let's know your expectations from this workshop series. What do you expect to gain from this workshop series? The title is Getting Started with TensorFlow, right? So let's get to know your expectations. You can also tell us what you do. Some people can be like AI developer, machine learning, or maybe you're just like an enthusiast. Let's get to know you. Lateefah, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. I was logged out. Sorry about that. Odeajo Israel is a data scientist and faculty at Robotics and Artificial Intelligence of Nigeria, RAIN. He's a Zindi Africa ambassador who has a number of Zindi prizes. Of recent, he won the Data Science Africa Winner Prize. He's one of the 1% successful developer at Turing, a world-class developer platform. He's a data analyst and data engineer at SILQ, California, US. Odeajo Israel is a Zindi Africa ambassador, World Change Agent, Africa Alliance of YMCAs, Global Youth Ambassador, and the World Literacy Ambassador, just to mention a few. He's also part of the TensorFlow Ibadan co-organizer and Google Student Developer Club, Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Lead. Odeajo Israel is a member of Data Science Nigeria, Black in AI, and many technology ecosystems.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Israel, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. It's nice to be here, and it's nice to have me take you through this process of getting started with TensorFlow. And I could see quite a number of people on the comment section saying they want to get into data science. Right. Yeah, this will be like an opener, right, to some of the things you want to do. because the goal of this class, it's like we know it's an hands-on. So I think Victoria, we can possibly stop the sound now.
Yes, I'll do that now.
Yeah. So the purpose of this class is to take us through some of the fundamental things that we need to be aware of in this space of data science, or say AI in general. All right, so I'll be talking about what is TensorFlow, and so TensorFlow basically is a machine learning library that enables researchers and developers to build the next generation of intelligence applications. Now, for many of us who have been in the data space, you know that there are processes, and one of the processes we want to pay more attention for the purpose of
Dámi bolo wà.
building
Dámi
deep
lóhùn náà.
learning, for the purpose of building deep learning models. And of course, you know, when we talk about deep learning models, we're talking about working on data set that are images, right? These are some of the things that we want to pay more paying attention to building our very first machine learning model, right? At the end of the day, using TensorFlow. Of course, we all know, and that's the reason why we're having this class. The TensorFlow, it's a framework or a Python library by Google, right? It's a framework by Google for building deep learning models. Please take note of that. And of course, it also provides distributed and parallel machine learning based on general flow data flow graph. Also, target heterogeneous devices such as your single PC, and of course, we'll be learning how to use GPUs in the course of the class because you are running a lot of bigger data, you are running a lot around images, you are running a lot around, and you know, images are of different shape and pixel, so they can be very heavy for just your system, right? So TensorFlow has come, and of course, we have a runtime that you can use to make that a bit easier. Now, I placed this here because we all remember that challenge, and of course, one of the big challenge that we face as developer is ability to install TensorFlow library locally. Of course, not to bother, in the course of the class, I'm going to be showing you a Medium post how you can install TensorFlow locally on your system. It's actually very huge, but it's better you install it once and you move on. Of course, also today, because of we have a short time, we'll just be building our model using the online platform, right? And we're going to see how we can use platforms like Google Colab to achieve this in few minutes. Now, just to take note that there are quite a number of algorithms TensorFlow uh, gives to us. We have the linear one, classifier and regressor, DNN, classifier and regressor. Of course, we know that there are two major type of problems at the run. You know, we have classifier problem and we have regressor problem. Classifier problem talks about a problem that has categories. To say, for example, can you predict if someone will pass an exam or not? That's a classification. And that kind of classification is a binary classification of 0 and 1. Can you predict if somebody will pass? That is a value. If somebody will not pass, that's another value. Do we get that? That's example of what classifier is. But regression talks about numeric analysis, numeric prediction. To say, can you predict the price of fuel in the next 4 years? So values around that, whether integer or float, basically it's a picture of a regressor problem. So these are the kind of two problems we'll be looking at that we will always have to come across our journey in the data science space. And of course, we have the DNN linear combine. We have the SVM, that is support vector machine. There's another classifier model that you can use to for classification. K-means clustering. K-means it's about talking about the nearest feature or the nearest data point to what you are building. These are models that you can pay attention to. We call them models, we call them algorithm. We are still saying quite the same thing. Now, you must know that when we talk about TensorFlow, we're just talking about tensor. And of course, our tensor has dimensions of vectors, right? We use tensor to represent our n-dimensional data set. When we say the n-dimension, that means you might not, you don't even know the numbers of tensions that are available in your data set. So, but of course, just take note that when we talk about TensorFlow, we are using tensor in the process. You will see some of these things when we start and on. And of course, our tensor also have its own matrix. Of course, you know when you have this tensor, this is a one-to-one matrix, and of course, you know this is a one, two, three, four. That's four column, and you have how many rows? One, two, three, four, five, six. So it's still that kind of a 6 by 4 matrix, and of course, the last one you have a 4 by um, two matrix. So the emphasis right now is to tell us that our tensor can either be constant or our tensor can either be a variable. Now, this is a simple code that shows loading a simple machine learning code. So, of course, what you have here is basically saying that I am trying to use an algorithm called linear classifier. And some of the features I can pass into my classifier is the feature column. Feature columns talks about the columns you want to build your model on. N classes shows that you are trying to build a model that has about 10 classes. When you say 10 classes, it means there is a class at point at in the label you have 0, you have 1, you have 2, you have 3, you have 4, you have 5, you have 6, you have 7, you have 8, you have 9. Right, that is 10 classes. Of course, after you have load your model, the next thing is that you want to fit on the model. And when you're fitting on the model, there is a particular part of the data you have to pass in, and that is the data, and the labels are the columns you are working with. I'm going to explain this with real code just to give you an idea. But the emphasis is in the simple machine learning model process, you are loading your model, you are fitting your model. This is where you are building the model. This second line of classifier.fit is when you are building your model, and classifier.evaluate is now when you're trying to test. You want to get the you want to validate if this model performs well or not. Because you are working with a classifier problem, of course, you want to pay attention to matrices like accuracy, F1 score, and all of that. But if there are regressor problems, you want to pay attention to the loss functions, right? So these are things you want to take note in the process when we look at it. Tools provided for distributed training and evaluation, graphical debugging, and export to production server. Of course, when you build a model, when you have evaluated that model, then you can decide if you want to deploy such model or not. When you say deployment, now we're talking about putting into live, making your model, perform quite a number of things. It cannot be deployed on a web or an Android app. And of course, some people have heard about TensorFlow JS. That is Google actually built a TensorFlow library JS that is able to interact with a mobile application. So these are things you want to move on to understand as occasion serves you. Now, some of the use cases of TensorFlow will be that you can use it to build a model around voice or sound recognition. You can use it for text-based application. At that level, you want to pay attention to what we call natural processing language, right? NLP. We want to also look at image recognition, which is one of the things we're going to do today. We're just going to build a simple model around classifying images to say, okay, when it is 0, that means that is a shirt. When it is 1, that means that is that kind of thing is what you want to pay attention to. Now, of course, time series forecast. The purpose of time series forecast is for you to be able to predict based on the time. Of course, there are quite a number of technicalities into that, but these are some of the things just in the know. These are some of the things you want to pay attention to when you are building your models using TensorFlow. Don't forget, TensorFlow is a framework or a library that is basically for deep learning model. And of course, because it could be, deep learning when you say something is deep, one of the picture you have in mind is that there's a whole lot of work that you need to do in the process. It is very heavy. So there's some of the things you want to pay attention to moving forward. So I add about that TensorFlow is good, of course, yes. It's a Python-based MN framework. It's a neural network because we know we work more of neurons. Of course, we see those things when I walk you through a simple tutorial shortly. It's a Google open source project on GitHub. It was released in 2015. It's run on highly optimized C++ code for actual calculation. High-level APIs on top of TensorFlow available, like skflow to fit with your SK. So scikit-learn is a simple, it's a model that we use for our normal machine learning. Most of us, if you're not using a framework like TensorFlow or PyTorch and all of that, you will be using sklearn. Of course, it also has an API that you can use in that environment. The core of component of TensorFlow is the computational graph and tensors. And what is the job of tensor? The tensor will help you to transfer your nodes through their edge. You're going to see a picture of some of these things as we move on. Now, these are resources you want to look at. after the class, website where you can read about it, the
Israel,
working code. Yes, please.
Israel, please can
Yeah,
you zoom into your screen? Like we can't really see what you are doing.
you can. All right. Is it fine now?
Yes, that's fine.
Now let me sorry about that. So the use cases for TensorFlow, like I mentioned, the voice and sound recognition. You want to build a text to sound, say a hello world, and you want that to translate back to you. You can use TensorFlow to do all of that. Or you want to write something and you want the system to say that back to you. The idea of a chatbot, you want to use TensorFlow to be that kind of model. Text-based application, I said at that point you want to pay attention to what we call natural language processing, right? That is NLP, that is able to help in textual data, image recognition. Oh, this is a cat, this is a dog. Yeah, you want to use the TensorFlow framework to achieve the time series forecast. That is, you want to predict the future of an occurrence over time. Before now, in our other models that we be building, we don't necessarily have to pay attention to dates. But in time series forecast or in analysis, you want to pay all of the attention to date. That's the only thing you have in your data, and it's your target. So based on the date, you want to know quite a number of things you have to do at that level. You have to clean your data. You have to understand if your data is stationarized or not. Key things to look at. Of course, we also have what we call video detection, to say that it's almost very alike with your image recognition. But in your image recognition is just an image. But in detection, there are many of objects involved. Somebody might be waving and is detecting that's a person. You are holding a pen, you're saying that's a pen. You know that kind of a picture. So TensorFlow is one of the framework you want to use. Like I've told you earlier, that TensorFlow basically is for the purpose of building deep learning models, right? That's like one of the big things. And all of these things we have mentioned here, they're actually deep learning. They're not just the machine learning that we are totally used to. But of course, you can use TensorFlow for your machine learning because it also has an SK learn API that you can fetch from. Now, I was explaining this part the last time, and I also talked about the resources you can use. These are some of the resources that you can pay attention to, trying to learn on your own. I would advise as you move, because knowing frameworks like this makes you much better, because they will have done most of the work. You just need to know when to use it, and that's why I'm going to be walking you through a tutorial after this section. Now, so in the hands-on section, we'll be talking about TensorFlow 2 quick start for beginners. Also, we'll be building our basic classification. I'll be classifying image of clothing. And of course, I'm going to show you how to install TensorFlow locally. So let me take question at this point before we go to the hands-on moment. So do you understand anything from what I've said? I know many people might be new to the technology. Of course, some people are just about starting their journey in data work. So TensorFlow might not be the first thing they want to think of, but then you just have an idea of some of these things. TensorFlow is basically used for the purpose of building deep learning models, and there are quite a number of models that are available both for classifiers and regressor. I mentioned them the other time. You can watch through the slide or maybe later to understand that. Now, in a way to just know that you understand something, please, for people who are on this call, can you just put a comment? Let me just tell me one thing that you've learned from all that we've said. Trying to discuss what TensorFlow stands for, the use cases. Let's just have that section as we before we go to the hands-on section. Just something in the comment group just to be sure that you are with me. Can we do that in a moment? Hello, are we there? I'm trying to wait. Just tell me something that you've learned from what I have mentioned. I know there are quite a number of things I've introduced you to. Maybe the use case. Can you mention one of the use case? Can you mention why TensorFlow? Okay, thank you, Pram. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I don't understand what love with that clothing is saying. All right. Do we still have anyone who wants to say something? One more person before we move on. Any other comments?
Yeah, sorry about that spam comment. I blocked the user.
All right. All right. So any other comments as we move on to the answer section? It's just going to be very brief, just to give us an insight. So let's move on. Well done, guys. Thanks to people who have said one or two things that they've learned through that lead to presentation. All right. So we're building our first model, and I'm using an environment called Google Code Lab. Like I mentioned the other time, Google Code Lab is a platform where you can run your models online. So you don't need to go to the stress of trying to load or trying to install TensorFlow locally on your system. Once you come to this environment, you can easily install TensorFlow. But of course, the big part of it will be that it depends completely on data. So if you have to do anything, you have to have good data, you have to have strong data connected, and all of that. Now, this is the environment where uh, this link has been shared from the material. Let me just, you know, hi Victoria, is there a way to share the link to? Hello, Victoria. So are you there? So I was thinking of a way to share the link. Let's just follow through.
Okay, you can send the link via the comments. I would
Do that,
display
right?
it on the yes. Just send it.
Like this. And let me just do the second one, which is going to be
Okay.
how to locally install TensorFlow. You want to also do that because at times you don't have all of the data every time to be running that. Of course, you have to have a good system to install this locally. Now let's move on. Now, yeah. So, like I said, this is the environment. It's called Google Code Lab. It's a platform where you can run your models without having to install them locally. So we'll be walking through this process, and we'll be building our first classification problem. That's what we'll be doing here. Now, for me to be able to use this environment, I have to. This shows I'm not connected, so I have to reconnect. So when it shows connect, that's when I can move on. Of course, it's connecting. So it's the same thing. Like I said, this environment needs internet. So when you say connected, it's initializing the process of connecting. Yeah, connected. That means I can now work here. Now, so look at what we're trying to do. We're trying to do a basic classification. We want to classify images of clothes. So we want to say that okay, this particular clothes, oh, is shirts. This one is do you get that's what we're trying to do. So these guides train a neural network model to classify images of clothing like sneakers and shirts. It's okay if you don't understand all of the details. All right, there are things you can read about, but it's just a walkthrough. This is a fast-paced overview of a complete TensorFlow program, with the details explained as you go. Right. So, of course, this material has so much details. So, at this moment, what we are doing is to build, try to load our necessary libraries. So, the libraries we will need basic. The first one is TensorFlow. Of course, that is what we will use to build our deep learning model. So, to import TensorFlow as TF, we are importing NumPy as NP. NumPy is a model that helps us to work around our NumPy arrays. And of course, matplotlib.py plots as LP. It is for visualization. So in case the situations where we want to
What the heck?
view our results. So to run this, there are two patterns to that. Is that you do click on this guy here, this sign, or you do shift enter. So let's click here, right? So it's loading. Like I said, your internet has to be connected. So in case yours is not showing, you have to run this guy first, where we need to install it. This part, you will see the code. That was not necessary here. So it's already installed. It's easier because it's a Google software. So it has been preloaded in this environment. Now we are working with this is a very famous data set that you need to first work with. Most of us we always have to work with this whenever we are building our first deep learning model using my TensorFlow. It's called fashion minist data sets. It's basically a data that shows different clothes. You click on this link, you see more details about that. And please, I believe you can see my screen. Please put a comment. Let me be sure. Okay, since you can see it. All right. So this guide, the fashion Mr. data set, will contain 70,000 grayscale. You can see it. These are the picture of the grayscale different images. You can see this looks like a shirt. This looks like a top. We have about 70,000 of it. And of course, there are 10 categories. This image shows individual article of that plot. And every of these images is a 20 by 28 pixel. As you can see here, if you look at it very well, you can see shoe, you can see quite number of stuff. So this is actually the data set we'll be working with. We'll be loading it, right, for us to work with it. So you look at this code. This code is we trying to load the data set. That's what we are doing here. This data set is available inside our TensorFlow, and there is a particular framework or library inside TensorFlow that you will be much more familiar. It's called Keras. Keras is like an inbuilt library for TensorFlow that you will always work with. So from this, we are now loading the data set from our Keras. So what this implies is this Keras is inside TensorFlow, data set is inside Keras. Then which data set are we loading? We are loading fashion mist. Now in this fashion mist, we are trying to create our train and our test data. So the train image and the test label, these labels, I'm going to show you what the label looks like. But of course, these are what the images looks like, right? These are what the images looks like. And of course, there is a test image and a test label. At this level, we're just trying to break down all the data that you have here into, you're trying to split it for people like that are doing machine learning before now. You understand that we do train test split, right? At this level, that's what we are doing. We're trying to split our data. Some of them will be in the train, and some of them will be in the train images. Some images will be in the train. Some of them also will have label. Of course, we have also data in the test image, and also some of them in the test label. So we'll be testing after we have built our model. We'll be using the test image and the test label to now test. So we are going to be paying attention to the train data now because we still want to train our model. So here we need to load. So we are loading the data right now, and it's splitting it into train images, train labels, train test images, test labels. So if you run this, of course, because it's still downloading from that environment, you can see, like I said, you have to connect it to internet. Now it's done downloading. Now the next thing you want to do now is to load your data into 4 NumPy arrays. Now, the train data and labels contain the train set, like I mentioned the other time, while the model is to be tested on your test set, right? Which is the test images and your test label array. You have to take note of that. I told you that this is a 28 by 28. I told you this earlier. This guy here is a 28 by 28 pixel for your images. And of course, with this pixel, it's going to range from 0 to 2255. And you have 10 classes. I told you have 10 classes earlier from this part. I told you that we have 10 classes. Can you see categories? Yes. So from here, we also you can see 0 to 9. That means that's 10. At label 0, that is t-shirts. That means as for every image that is showing, every image has its own label. That's what this means. Every image has its own label. Every image has its own label. So if you see an image, it has a label. So that is what we are saying. These are the labels. We have label 0 to be t-shirt or top, label 1 to be trouser, label 2 to be pullover, 3 to be dress. So these are the images that are available too. These are the labels that you'll be seeing on them. And all of these label has their own classes. Right. So these are the classes we are working with. The classes name t-shirt, top, trouser, pullover, dress, coat, sandal, shirt, sneakers, bag, ankle box. These are some of the examples of our classes that we are working with. All right, let me go back to what we're trying to. So here we have the classes names like we have it here. So we are creating a an array, or say a list of these values as class name, which is t-shirt, all of the guys that we have here. So if I run this, that means whenever I need to use this guy, I need to follow the class names. So if you look at this now, if I check the shape of my, I told you the other time, train images. For my train images, I have a 20 by 20, 20 by 28 is the pixel, and I have about 60,000 images in my train. And if I check my label, it's the same thing. I have to have, of course, there's a match up to that of
Hi everyone. Sorry about the break in transmission. We are trying to solve a technical issue, so please bear with us.
All right, guys. I apologize for the break in the class, but we're trying to fix it back now. So we're trying to build our first model using TensorFlow for a basic classification of clothing images, and what we tried doing earlier now is that we tried to split such that we have data in our train images and we have data for our test images. So we're right about understanding. So I'm going to run this again, just start from the beginning. Again, I'm trying to connect again now. And you see this beauty of working online, right? That's what it's going to make. That's what's making this look a bit very fast now. Setting this up again because it's online. So this is me trying to connect, right? Like we said the other time. So trying to connect, connected good, so we can run this again. Here we're trying to load, like I said the other time, we're trying to load our TensorFlow.
Can you please share your screen? Okay, hi everyone. I guess we'll have to come to the end of the session, but we'll finish the recording of this workshop for TensorFlow with Israel, and we'll upload it on YouTube again so you guys can watch the completion of this, right? Everybody can get to watch it. So we'll make the complete episode of this and upload it to YouTube and share the link to everyone. So thank you everyone for joining the call. Apologies for the whole technical issues. Yeah, so next week we are having another workshop series. Next week Saturday. Yeah, see you then. Bye everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the GDSC-UI channel and like this video. Thank you. Bye.